So good evening. Welcome to Aberdeen Interfaith's book discussion on the book Untamed by Celine Uwineza, who has joined us this evening, which has been an amazing catch. And we're so happy that she's been able to be with us. It would be nice if, first of all, you'd just like to introduce yourself. And maybe you could just, since you're doing that, just make one comment about the book for Celine to be aware of something that's just touched you. And then we're going to ask Desiree to give a wee introduction to the background and his own personal background to the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda 28 years ago. And then we'll start chatting. Okay. So I'm Patricia Finley. I'm a member of Aberdeen Interfaith. And Desiree is the next one on my little list of pictures.
Yes, I'm Desiree Joseph Katihabwa. I'm originally from Burundi, and I'm a human rights campaigner.
Nigel?
Yes, I'm one of the local interfaith group, and I'm a retired philosopher. Philosophers don't retire, so I still try and think these things. Patricia asked us to comment on one thing in the book. One thing that really interested me, Celine, was the way, if you like, your two selves earlier on were quite separate, and outwardly you were very sociable and did lots of things and very active and so on, and inwardly you had this turmoil and so on. And it struck me as that was so significant because it's true in a lesser way of so many people, I suspect. People who are outwardly very active and seem to be positively engaged, but nevertheless on nursing or not properly facing deep issues in their lives. Nothing right as bad as but still, that's something that struck me when I read through the book.
Yeah, let's go back one step. Desiree, you want to make one comment as well?
Yes, I was particularly moved by her transition doing the therapies, and this is something I could relate to because in my 20s as well, I had to go through counseling sessions for my PTSD as a result of being exposed to the tragedies of Burundi and also Rwanda. 94, I was 15. So I did see a lot of children coming through to Burundi with, wounds on their heads. And, that was 94. I only moved to the UK in 1999. Every time, whenever there is a commemoration, I'm always taken back to those memories of children crossing into Burundi. And of course, we've also had something similar in Burundi in October, months before the 1994 Rwanda Tutsi genocide, in which I lost, grandparents rather, and friends. So it's almost like there's a repetition of that violence, which I can quite relate to with Celine. So I was really, really moved by the passage when she's had to, go through the counseling. That's something I'm quite relating to in my own journey.
Thank you.
I think, and yes, because I forgot myself. Thank you, Nigel, for reminding me. I loved well, it was terrible, the bit, at the beginning about your mum and that, but your mum obviously played such a huge role in your life, and she gave you a lot of the strengths you've got are from your mum. And I loved when I then came across a letter you'd written to her, in your book, and then knowing that she was the one who would be interested in your business, you're just writing to her. It would be lovely to see the other letters you wrote to your other members of the family, which I presume you did, depending what you thought they'd want to know and what you would want to tell them. But I liked those a lot. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm Astrid Bendemeer. I'm a representative of the Aberdeen Interfaith group, and I represent the Brahma Kumaris, which is an organization that meditates. And yeah, I was quite taken back by the book and by what happened and by the violence and by the human response to violence, because I think it just paralyzes a person, and the person is not able really to defend themselves, and the mental turmoil that follows that, and I'm just desolated about what's happening in the world just now, because these sort of situations continue to occur, and it's just, I think people need to listen to these things and know, but apart from that, we need to change. We need to make sure that these things do not happen again. You know, I mean, it seems that humanity is not learning, or those people who do these things, they just don't have an understanding. I don't know. It's quite desolating in a way. So we need to come together. I think we need to find a different way of dealing with it.
Thank you.
Sohima?
Yeah, I'm having an issue with my audio. I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me? Okay.
Not bad. Not good, but it's not bad.
My name is Sohima Hiro. I'm the host of a new podcast here in Aberdeen, the Pan-African Experience podcast. I'm also the associate producer for the Grampian Theatre Company here in Scotland. And David Joseph invited me to the program. What touched me just the idea of personalizing the story. Even someone that was born and grew up in Africa from Nigeria. So being from the western part of Africa, we hear about genocide, but it's always some sort of a distant story, certainly from my family. Or the book almost personalized it. See, I can't imagine what a 10-year-old, I have a 7-year-old boy myself, I can't imagine what a 10-year-old will feel in that situation. So being able to personalize and also how we view the light at the end of the tunnel, you know, trying to help other people, finding that need to help other people. I think it's quite inspiring.
Thank you.
Do you hear that, Celine? Yeah, could you hear that?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
well,
I did. Thank you.
Okay. And Kenneth, that's great. I have you on our list. Really nice to see you. Introduce yourself and have a comment about the book for Celine as an introduction, please. Okay. I know I have asked Sohima that already. I had the same problem. We must be getting old.
No, it's not an age thing. It's a technical thing. I don't know whether to move the mic nearer your mouth or something, but we need to try and improve that sound. We don't want to miss what you have to say.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I represent the general public. I'm just an interested individual who read Celine's book. I had no idea Celine was going to be joining us tonight, and I'm absolutely delighted that you've taken the time to come and share with us, and I look forward to anything you have to say. In relation to one item from the book, I think I would say I was horrified by the violence that you witnessed among your relatives and neighbors. And I was horrified that it was neighbor to neighbor. And I just cannot understand how this can happen. It is beyond my comprehension. So
Thank you.
I really enjoyed your book. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and then we have Suzanne.
Hi, I'm Sujan. I'm just assisting Nigel and Patricia from Interfaith. Okay.
That's a funny way of putting it.
I think you have the book though, don't you? And have I covered everybody then? I think I have. And Sohima's going to try and go out and come back in again. Okay. So Desiree, I did ask you to say something just in case. So let's do your just in case, and then we'll begin our discussion on the book and ask Selena what we'd love to know and get her to maybe say something back to the comments she's heard at the beginning as well. Okay, Desiree.
Yes. So I thought that I would share a story about a young Rwandan who was 2 years old during the 1994 Rwanda genocide perpetrated against the Tutsis. Her name is Lilian Muhoza. She was among the first students at Agahozo Shalom Youth Village. This is a village which was founded by late Anne Heyman, a South African Jewish activist and lawyer who thought about using Israel's experience to take care of the orphans of the genocide. And I like Lilian's story because he starts from tragedy at the age of 2, and he sort of progresses, just like Celine, into something beautiful and positive. So I first connected with Lilian through the Agahozo Shalom Youth Village. I was a sponsor at the time when we first connected. And later on, I decided to contact another Rwanda genocide survivor who is based in the US, who also survived as a child, 8 years old, because they have a network of survivors who support each other. And they all basically decided to look for a scholarship for Lilian to move to the US. Lilian did acquire a scholarship, and she moved to the US and studied for 4 years. Lilian is now back, but in between her studies and returning back to Rwanda, she founded a network supporting women survivors of the genocide, which I find quite impressive from a young woman who has survived as a child, now going to the US, coming back to support women survivors, providing support like counseling and other types of support. I like the story of Lilian because it shows that despite the horrors of 1994 Rwanda Tutsi genocide, the survivors are rising from ashes, and they are becoming a model, a light almost, to empowering the lives of others. In most cases, they're supporting survivors, but they are also going in other countries to share their stories or participate in projects. Lilian has also volunteered at Yad Vashem in Israel, and Lilian continues just to amaze anyone who has come in contact with her. So I thought I would share that story just to show that despite the horrors they have lived, they are some of the most amazing human beings who show a resilience that maybe all of us can emulate too.
Mm. Thank you. That's amazing connection as well with the village where you worked, Celine. Did you come?
Yeah.
Do you remember Lilian? No?
Yes, I know Lilian.
Oh,
I know.
there you go.
She was there. Yeah.
Yes.
She was there when I was working there. So, and
Yeah.
I've seen her a couple of times, even in New York when I was doing my book tour.
Yes.
She came for, so I know her, Lilian, very well. Thanks for sharing her story.
Yes.
That's
Amazing.
lovely. Okay, shall we try Sohima again? Okay, introduce yourself and give us a comment for Celine about the book in general.
Hello, can you hear? Is it better now?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's better.
So sorry about that. I just had to bring a mic. Yeah, my name is Soshima Iro. I'm originally from Nigeria. I host a new podcast called The Pan-African Experience here in Aberdeen. I'm also the associate producer for the Grey Hill, a theatre company here in Scotland. I was saying earlier that what I found touching about the book is just to personalize the story, because for someone like me that grew up in Nigeria and the western part of Africa, the genocide is almost like a distant story to us, But to have someone personalize it, I can't imagine what it feels like to go through that process, especially for a 10-year-old. I have a 7-year-old boy myself, so I find it inspiring that she's able to, come out on the other end, and also found the need to help other people. So kudos to you.
Oh, thank you.
Do you want to chip in here, Celine, with anything someone said that you really want to pick up on?
I think it's what everyone said. First of all, I was really touched by you being here and reading the book, and it's always a surprise, to hear someone from a far country that has read the book and it's relating to in one way or another, or it's speaking to their hearts. Because when I first, when you read the book, that I didn't sit and say, okay, let me write a book or let me write a memoir. It was just a combination of notes from my therapy. And I thought that it would be maybe for my family, for my community. And, it was a little bit like, I wanted to keep it very small in the inner circle. But as I was writing, it was really, really clear that it was bigger than me, and that it will go, and the story will go around and touch as many people, or people from other countries. So I'm very, very honored to be here. And it's someone said that they didn't know that I will be on the call. It's a promise that I made to myself, and because these stories and our stories and the healing stories, we owe it to our people who died, and we owe it to our community that are continuing globally to face challenges and violence with what is happening in Ukraine, what is happening around the world. We see that, and we tend to see what the TVs or the news are showing us, but these are people's stories. There are children there. There are families there that are going through a lot, and that will have or will face trauma and some PTSD in the end of the the situation that they're in now. So it's a promise that I made to myself that whenever I get the chance, I will actually make time to discuss about the book, what it meant, and share the stories, because it's not only the past, but it's a continuous work of really sharing what violence do to people, to families, to children. And in one way or another, if we could influence a certain policy or a certain group of people that are organizing things that could come out as violence or segregation, or just things that are makes people, instead of being united, but brings violence or bring any sort of division, that would be my honor. And I owe it to, like you said, I owe it to my mom, I owe it to my siblings, and to everyone that we lost during the genocide against the Tutsi in 1994. That whenever I get a chance, I will sit and listen and try to answer questions, those that I can, and just in memory and in honor of the people we lost.
Do you have a book in front of you, Celine?
I have it actually at the back, but I can grab it. Let me grab it. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Oh, well done. Can you just read us the little paragraph about why you wrote it on page 8, the Roman page 8, in the introduction, with Our Stories Matter?
Mm-hmm. You say page?
The Roman page 8, the V111.
Yeah, V11, yeah. The first,
Our
say
Stories Matter, the middle paragraph there. That was lovely.
Oh, yes, yeah. Our stories matter. They have the potential to inspire others, to share their stories and impact their communities in return. I chose to write this book to heal from my wounds, to give a voice to my family, to defy the genocide denials, and to highlight the importance of memory preservation as a tool to fight against genocide ideology and violence. The book is also an opportunity to recognize Rwandan's journey of healing, resilience, and courage. Most of all, I wrote this book so that I will never forget my story. I hope that it will reach and inspire many to share their own stories of courage, and that it will be counted among other Rwandan and African transformational stories.
Lovely, thank you. Mm-hmm. Speaking to the guy who is the, what is he, some kind of person for Scotland, the Rwandan in Scotland, he didn't know about your book. He sent me a list of books, but he didn't know about your book, but he was going away to look at it.
Oh, okay.
He heads up Comfort Rwanda and does work in the Congo now as well. Callum Henderson is his name.
Yeah, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Right, so there you are. That answers some of our questions that we might have had in question 6, just so that we have an idea of what Celine hoped. And Celine, since you wrote that in 2015, now this was printed in 19.
Well, it was in 19, yeah.
19. Would you say that the book now has other purposes as well, or has had that you didn't expect, or other things that have happened because of the book, because of your story?
Like I said, when I was writing this back in the time, I was thinking about mainly our communities and people in Africa or people in specific area that are going through wars or are going through any type of violent strike and everything. So, but then it actually came out as speaking to people with mental illness challenges, or people who are actually like there was a comment that said that they recognize, or I think it was Niger that said that people are going through a lot, but they're busy, with their lives, and you'll never know or never notice. So it's actually, I've seen comments and I've received comments from people that didn't have to go through any genocide or this mass atrocity, but we all go through a lot of challenges in life. And I've received some people who were going through divorces and having the book speak to them with regards to therapy and to healing, or to young people at universities that are going through family issues. So it actually expanded from the violence and the war, or the everything that is happening in countries, to personal, or to individuals that are going through, life challenges like we know it. And it's really with honor and a privilege to speak to such kind of people. And it was very, very interesting to me that when I wrote the book, it wasn't initially, I didn't think initially that it will speak to the group or to those hearts. Yeah.
That's wonderful. God's plan much bigger than yours, as you said.
Exactly. Yeah. And actually, I will add that it's also continuing to heal me. as a continuation of when I share the story, or when I sit down and reflect on, for example, we're in April and it's a commemorative year throughout July. I still receive calls or emails from young people who were young like me, who have started to write their own stories. Mm-hmm. Or families that have never sat to talk, to share, even among families, close family, to share about what happened to them and how it affected them. And by reading the book, or there's a video we made also on YouTube called Our Family Story, that my brother and my dad, we sat down for the first time and spoke. That was 2019 also, or 18, to speak about what happened. So you can imagine it was all over. Most of the families just, avoided to speak about the trauma or to speak about many things. So having people calling me or emailing me that has started their own journey or their family journey is really healing for me as well. That the memoir was not a waste of time, or is something that will be like 2-3 years and then it will be forgotten, but it will be a gift that will keep giving, if I could say, to the next generation. So it's really healing for me.
That's great. Can we still get that video on YouTube?
Sorry?
Can we still get that video on YouTube of you mentioned that's on your book, mentioned in your book?
Oh yeah, Our Family Story.
Yeah,
yeah. Sorry, you're cutting. I can't hear you well. What did you just say?
Kwipuka, you called it, didn't you?
Kwibuka, yes. Yeah. Oh, you saw the, okay, yes, Kwibuka.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So now it's open to anybody to start a theme or a question discussion, or something that you would like Celine to comment on and for us to share a bit about together. Who would like to go first?
Can I go first?
You can.
Yes.
Siri.
So Celine, I was very moved by your book, and on my next journey to Kigali, I hope to meet you in person. I wanted to ask whether over the years, since you've received some of the counseling for your trauma, do you think that the expertise tackling things like PTSD and trauma, do you think that it's improved, or there's still room for more expertise to be brought in?
Definitely, there's room for improvement with regards to, first of all, the resources. It's when like maybe you are aware of it, but after the genocide against the Tutsi, the country was in chaos. The country was all over the place. So you have survivors, people who were wounded physically and mentally, and you had also perpetrators, the one that committed the genocide, and their families. They were also traumatized in terms of, like, okay, there's these two people, and there's also refugees coming back to the neighborhood countries that had to come back to Rwanda, and some of them, young people, have never heard or have never lived in Rwanda and have to leave what they knew, come back to their parents' country. So the country was in total chaos, and the focus was more into the direct wounded, the physical one, the ones that were having wounds, open wounds, and also the ones that were having serious mental issues. But as the year went by, people were busy and trying to build themselves up. Families were coming back together to survive, if we could say, to survive life after the genocide. And therapy and PTSD, we don't even have a name in Kinyarwanda name or post-traumatic disorder. It's mainly like we're trying to find names and put them together. So it's very new in Rwanda, and probably around maybe Africa, I don't know. But the idea of seeking for help in therapy or and admitting that you're having some mental challenges is also very new in many communities. So I would say that on both hands, we'll still need to talk about PTSD, depression, and trauma, and that there's hope, that there's healing is possible. Wounds, instead of having an open wound, you can have a scar. This is what I always say, that I personally find that after this whole journey, I will never forget, but my wound has, like we say in French, cicatrisé. It has started really to be a scar, and which I'm grateful for, because of I'm grateful to God, and I'm grateful to therapy. Therapy saved my life, actually. And so there's still room for improvement with regards to now people joining the not the receiving part, but also joining the skill force in therapy or in counseling. So Rwanda has improved a lot. A lot of awareness is being done, especially among the youth. And we still have room for improvement. Of course, we still have many work to do on that area, but I'm happy that starting from the government to the local communities to the families, awareness is starting to increase, that we need to take care of our mental health, and not only for genocide survivors, but as a well-being. We have physical and we have mental, and the whole well-being in a nutshell.
Thank you.
Does anyone have a related comment or question?
Yes, it's somewhat related. And you said that the therapy has helped you to, to evolve. The wounds has evolved into a scar, somewhat. And that brings me to, resentment. We're still human beings, and I was wondering if you have found yourself at some point becoming resentful, maybe when you are in Rwanda, of the things that happened in the past, because, there are so many people that have gone through similar experiences as you, during this period. Maybe looking around your community, have you found yourself trying to go back to feeling the resentfulness, and how you deal with that, if that ever crops up?
Resentful towards
your experience, what happened, the genocide, and your experiences in this period, even after the therapy and the healing you have gone through.
Resentful, maybe I will not call that resentfulness, but mainly someone mentioned it with regards to, I think it was Astrid, that to really being astonished by what's happening and how the humanity, we never learn. We said never again after the Holocaust. This was said, and it was all over, and that's 50 years, and then 50 years down the road, same thing happens, or even in between those 50 years, violence and genocides have happened. So it's mainly a question to myself as well. Instead of saying, okay, those people are doing this, those people are doing this, because if you look at what happened in Rwanda, it's people like you and me. It's not like, how can I say, aliens came and did these crazy things. It was mainly a very long propaganda for years. My grandparents went through discrimination. My parents went through discrimination, and so the government and the people and the education around inciting people to be violent, inciting people, inciting people to hate each other. That's what I'm more into. It brought me a question of, okay, we'll never learn, but what about me, or during vis-a-vis the choices I make to live life, simple life with my family, with my friends or at work. So it's mainly like it leaves me wondering and also humbled a little bit by, like these are the things that can start small, by hating each other or just not being tolerant enough to say, okay, we are different, but differences can live together. So it's very interesting to see a human being, how we forget easily. And despite the years or despite what we learned from the community or the genocide, we don't forget. It always come back in one form or the other. So it leaves me like that unease or uncomfortable situation where I don't have to point fingers all the time, because looking back at what happened in my country and to my family, and when I saw people with machetes and all that, they were people like, with the head, 2 ears, like really people, not aliens. And if you hear stories about, families that were killed by their neighbors, but they were killed by, by their friends, and you'll be like, like the things we say, and how we feel, or how what we learn from the community is very, very crucial with regards to the education we receive, and also to the, if I could say, political agenda that people have. But it starts very small. It's not, they were not told, go and kill this person. It was a long term preparation. So the answer is long, I know, but it's mainly to give you the context of how I personally feel. And with regards to, like, many people who are resentful, many people are hurtful, many people have not started their healing journey, and it's through the healing journey that you are actually being able to get even angry. Most of the people are just live day to day, and they don't want to go back. They don't want to. I was actually discussing with one of my cousin who had 7 siblings and their parents. And so it was a family of 10 people, and he survived. He was the only one who survived. And so we were discussing just a few days ago, and he said, my way of remembering is to forget completely, forget what happened. And you could sense that he still has a long journey to start healing, but you could also see that he's very angry with life, and that can affect his personal choices and life choices. So for me, I always think that it starts with the healing process, to be able to feel resentful, to be able to feel anything really, because it's personal. It's personal. It's personal. It's individual. Yeah. I hope I answered.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you very much.
I was wondering, Desiree, you said that you had shared in a similar genocide to Celine. Was that the same genocide, or was that a different genocide?
So I always say that Burundi and Rwanda are twin countries. If I speak Kirundi to Celine in my language, she will understand me. And in fact, just 2019, I took a DNA test, and I did it purely for health reasons. And I have at least 50% of my DNA family from Rwanda. And there's a clear history and connection with the people of Rwanda. What I experienced in Burundi was around October 1993. So we had 3 months earlier a president elected, and then he was assassinated, and that followed almost 300,000 murdered in 3 days. So most of my family were killed, particularly those who were in the villages. But there's a slight difference with what occurred in Rwanda in 1994, because it was a clear program to wipe out a portion of the population, the Tutsis. For us in Burundi, I think in October it's slightly different, even though people were killed. If you look at the history of Rwanda, it spans back from 1959. So there has been episodes of genocides. Whereas for us, I think it will gear towards a civil war terming in terms of what happened in terms of the killing. Whatever was happening in Rwanda, it affected us because we had Rwandans whose parents had fled to Burundi from 1960s. So some of them had families in Rwanda. Some who were killed during the Tutsi genocide, and others who survived managed to cross into Burundi. So it's almost, even though I was in Burundi, whatever was happening in Rwanda it's something that we were communicated about. We were constantly updated about what was going on. I think for me particularly, what traumatized me the most was the question is, why is it that we did not intervene to stop the genocide? It's a guilt I still feel at the moment. Why is it that no one intervened to stop the killings? I learned a lot from survivors of Rwanda because I see such a resilience. I just hope that we will never witness again the episodes of horrors that we witnessed.
Can I just explore what you said? You couldn't understand why we did not intervene and stop the genocide.
Yeah.
Firstly, who's we?
Yes.
And secondly, if you could just describe the intervention you would have wished to happen.
Yes.
And if you can you relate that in any way to what's happening in Ukraine at the moment?
Yes. So I believe that the government of Burundi was in the position to intervene. When I say that, it's because although I don't like to dig into that kind of details, we actually had a majority Tutsi army in Burundi in 1993. When I say we, I thought more in terms of maybe Uganda, maybe Kenya, because they had the power to intervene. I even remember at that age, at 15, from 1993, there was actually an American presence, an American military presence in Burundi. I think it was about 2,000 Marines, US Marines. But I don't know whether it's because of politics or anything else, but I've always had that guilt to wonder why is it that we did not intervene. So going back to a question about Ukraine, it's a clear target. The invading army assaulting Ukraine is targeting people on the basis of ethnicity. So for me, I think that once again, in the aftermath of 1994 Rwanda Tutsi genocide, they talked about responsibility to protect as a way of addressing the UN failure to stop the Tutsi genocide. So if we have responsibility to protect, I'm not quite sure why we are still allowing killings to occur, because clearly they are targeting an ethnicity in Ukraine. They are targeting Ukrainian people. So again, I think it's an international community failure, again, to act, to stop killings. And this is just my humble personal opinion.
Thank you.
You know, Celine is not wanting to talk politics, she said. But no, I don't know if you want to respond.
Yeah, it's really like not wanting to talk politics, but it's mainly like when we share personal stories, it's always good to highlight what the violences and war is doing to families, and because that's where my work is, and the healing process for families, and protection for children, especially that are in the war zones or violence where it's happening. But with regards to the question, maybe I would say that every country or most of the countries are registered with the UN. But when UN failed to respond, even before the genocide, that's because there had been a lot of reports about the genocide plans, and it was more of like UN member states refused to answer the request for increased troops and money to protect. And although some French troops were dispatched, but they were only able to evacuate foreign nations. If you know the story of how the UN or the international community failed Rwanda during the genocide, there's a lot of documents and resources to read about or to watch. Even the genocide continued where occupied high-level criminals or French were controlling areas, French troops were controlling. It continued to happen in those areas. So what I can say is, if the UN had done their job in terms of the mandate to keep peace, the sustainable peace, and intervene and all that, not 1 million people will have been killed. Only a few people, maybe, because they had the power, and it's actually their mandate. The troops, that was their mandate. Instead of evacuating the country, more troops should have been brought in and stopped the killing.
Can I ask a question? One of the things that I find really, really difficult to understand is how during the killings, there would be a number of people, and then there would be these people with machetes, and they were full of blood, and they were saying, "You're going to be killed next." And they didn't do anything. They didn't run away. They didn't confront them. And it's not a criticism, but it's understanding that there is something going on at that time, in that moment, when you feel powerless, and possibly it is almost as if you're a balloon that has been pinched and there's nothing in it anymore. You have no energy anymore. And I don't know, I just find it quite distressing. And the power that these people have, is it not possible in those moments to run, or to say, okay, we are 100 people, they are 50 people with machetes, maybe all of us will die, but they will also, what is it that stops you from doing that? And just being obedient.
That's a very good question. So 2 answers with regards to that. First of all, there were many areas where people fought back. We have also history of very inspiring history from some areas in Rwanda that fought during the 3 months, and they only had stones. You know, they were not prepared to fight. They didn't have arms or grenades or all sorts of equipment to protect themselves, but they fought all 3 or during the 3 months. And even though only few survived, but they used everything they could get to fight back. So these stories are there. When you talk about Bisesero, when you talk about other areas in Rwanda, we have inspiring stories with regards to people who fought back and also people who were not targeted, if we could say. They were Hutu, but they were not, they didn't agree with what was happening, and they were actually hiding some of their friends or people who were coming to them, Tutsis who were coming to them to find refuge. So that's also fighting back in one way or another, to really choose humanity and choose to do the right thing. And although they knew that they were going to be killed if the community knew that they're hiding Tutsis or that they are doing anything to help. And we had like my brother here said, we had Desire said, lots of people flew from Rwanda to Burundi or to the neighborhood countries. The problem and the challenge was the roadblocks. You know, it was mainly almost impossible. For example, in my area, to go 2 kilometers or 3 kilometers without being killed, because in the roads, connecting roads, there were roadblocks, and you were being asked to present your ID, or even looking at you, they could say that you are Tutsi or you are Hutu. So it was not very, very easy to move around. So some people flew from their homes or the area where they are during at night or when it was raining. But then most of the people were tricked to go to churches, to find refuge to churches or chapels, because back in the days there were no killings in the churches. But this time, it was a way of bringing people together, as many people as possible, to be able to kill them fast. So people were killed in the churches, in the chapels, and things like that. And to respond now to the attitude or to the spirit that most of the people had, remember, the genocide was prepared, and there has been a lot of years of, how can I say, in order to have control, people were told that they are cockroaches, that they are, there was a dehumanization, people equal to animals, you are a cockroach, or being told that you're going to be killed next, or you don't have the rights. These are the things that affect the mind. And if, for example, my dad or my uncles were dismissed from their workplace back in the days because they were Tutsi, and if that's something that keeps on happening, somewhere, somehow, it affects the mind. It affects the spirit, because you are crushed for a long time. And then you pass it on to the next generation. And it had become very, very difficult for some people to even say, okay, I will fight today, but what happens tomorrow? But those are minor. Most of the people had the will to really fight back or to flee, but it was not an easy thing. And Carl here, thanks for joining and for connecting me, will attest, because he was able to move around a little bit despite what was happening, and understand that it was not a possible thing to move around or hide or flee like you wish.
Thank you.
Nigel, would you like to say something? Introduce a new aspect for discussion?
Yes, I was thinking of another aspect I wanted to come back to, though this has been fascinating. But before I do that, can I just say, Celine, that my wife also read your book, but she's got another meeting tonight. She just wanted me to tell you that she appreciated the book, and she said she also appreciated the wisdom of your mother. So that was an interesting comment that she made.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, my regards to her. Yeah.
But anyway, the thing I wanted to come back to, which is something I've been interested in for a long time, which is the relationship between caring for oneself and caring for others, or helping other people and caring for oneself. And I've often thought, well, sometimes the best way to care for yourself is to care for others, and sometimes it's the other way around. In order to care for others, you have to really love yourself. But I think what you really brought out in what you said, and this has made me think quite a lot, is that it can be, and I think in your case it was for a long time, a kind of disconnect. That the sort of caring for others, which you put your energies into, was almost a way of not facing your own self and caring for yourself. It was a displacement activity, and that really interested me, how far we can care for others and without, as it were, facing the core of our being from which it might come. So I found that a fascinating angle on something that I'd thought rather differently about. It was almost a bilateral relationship, whereas you were suggesting, not just in your own experience, but I think many others, there can be a disconnect between the two. I don't know whether that makes sense to you.
Yes, and it's most of the time what I can say is we do that unconsciously. I don't think we, in my case, going through life and having to, coping with life, I don't think I was doing it purposely saying, oh, let me not face this, but it was actually my actions were speaking out loud in terms of, oh, you're doing this, you're doing all this for people, being there for people and all that. But first of all, I never talked all through my story, never talking about my story, never talking about what I was facing, never even knowing that I was having some trauma coming back or some PTSD coming back, or in the way I was relating to my friends or my boyfriend at that time. It was mainly a response to the trauma that I had. For example, I grew up with this fear of losing people, and whatever, for example, my boyfriend will go out of the country or out of town, and if I received a phone call that I didn't know, in my heart it was mainly like, oh my God, something happened. Or if I see, if my dad or my grandma will go to the hospital, in my heart it was always like, oh my God, something is going to happen. They're dead or they're going to die. So everything was a loss, but it was not like purposely. It was all intentional. It was just like something that will quickly come in my brain or in my heart because I had not gone through a whole grieving process. And before I started therapy, I didn't even know that grieving is a process. And that I was fortunate to bury my family, but like that's not grief. Burying someone and going through a total healing, a grief process, are two different things. So I would say that with regards to what we do, like helping people, going out there to help people and loving people, it's always good to do that, but we forget that we have to take care of ourselves also, and go through therapy or go through any well-being or mending experience to become whole as a process, but also to become better at what we do, better at better people. Like I mentioned, the people who were involved in the genocide are people like me and you. They're not aliens. They're not, strange people, that people like me, and especially in my country, that my neighbors, we look alike. It's not like, you know, they have different eye or so. To be able to reach that point, there's a whole, you know, process that happened during the time they were being told to hate people and all that. So if I have the critical thinking that is strong, if I know myself and my values, and if, for example, I'm a Christian, if I'm a Christian really, and I came face to face with a challenging situation, will I choose goodness? Will I choose what I stand for? And what are the tools that help me to choose right? Really, those are the questions that. Yeah, yes, Nigel, you want to say something?
Can I just say a quick follow on from that? One thing that struck me, I mean, I was interested when I read the cover of your book. The impression given a little bit, it wasn't said as such, was that you were in a state of trauma for many years, and then you later became a successful entrepreneur, very successful and positive. But actually, reading the book, one realizes that really, from a very young age, you became a very responsible person in various positions, whether the bank or the next position you went and so on. So in many ways, your being successful on the outside was very much happening long before you had the degree of healing you've now feeling achieved. I appreciate you saying healed, but you've achieved something much greater in these last few years. And I suppose my question might be following on for that. Do you feel that now you've had that greater sense of healing or achieved it, that when you are working in your various public activities, social enterprises and so on, you're actually doing it more effectively than you did before?
More heartfully, like my heart is in it, and I'm actually being able to to put my heart in the work that I'm doing. For example, in business now, I'm able to say no to the things that are not, for example, projects that are not quite, you know, like you can have if you're a business person, you can have a lot of requests, and some of them are not, or in the way of maybe a client is not bringing in projects that are necessarily in line with what you believe in. So I have the tools now to say no, and not feeling bad about it. I'm able to also, with regards to my family relationship or any relationship that I care for, I'm able to say also no to the things that don't work for me or that don't work necessarily for my values, because I'm not afraid to lose anyone anymore. So those are the things that have changed a little bit. Maybe on the outside you won't be able to say it, but from the inside and from the people that are close to me, for example, my husband has seen a huge difference with regards to, as a person who has grown and who is now secure in terms of, okay,
that's a very
bad things are not bad things are not happening all the time. And even if they happen, we don't need to go through rehearsal. You know, something bad is happening, I'm going to lose someone, someone is going to die all the time. It affects your everything. Although you work externally very good with, you know, the computer, the email, the analysis, a policy and all that, those are the things that are outside. But from the inside, close people will notice a huge growth when it comes to growing internally. And
Celine, can I ask you where you're at with the bit at the end of your book about, you know, looking at the photograph of two of the perpetrators? Because how I came to know Carl was through the Forgiveness Project, which you're maybe aware of. It's a big exhibition in London, but it can tour, and we had it up in Aberdeen, of stories where people have forgiven in the most amazing circumstances, both as a country, like in South Africa, you know, within South Africa, as a, you know, perpetrators' parents starting a charity with victims' parents as a result of reconciliation and of a recognition they need to do something in memory of their son or their daughter or whatever, and something good would come out of it. Where are you at with that stage of your journey of healing?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like I end my book with regards to maybe it's a beginning of another journey. Yeah. Unfortunately, or fortunately, if I could say, I didn't know. I personally was very young, so I didn't know personally the perpetrators, the 50 or 60 people who killed my family and 200 other people. And because we had just moved from the area where we grew up to this new area called Kichikiro for only 3 years. So I had very few friends there, and my family, and I was very young. So for the photograph of the two people are the ones that were taken, and they are now still serving at the prison. And again, as a personal journey, first of all, as a family journey, for example, and I'm allowed to say that my brother is also, through his healing journey, has a more strong answer, or a more strong belief towards the perpetrators, because he hasn't started his healing journey, and we have to respect that. But I feel like he's very taken back all the time, like not moving forward with regards to his own personal journey, because even if we are siblings, we have two different personal journeys. So I would say that for me personally, to being able to listen to the testimonies of perpetrators, and to these to know what happened to these two people is a stepping stone, because before I didn't even want to know what was happening, or to know that they existed, and I just wanted to forget about that story and that part, that chapter. But I went back actually and learned about their story, where they at, which prison, what happened to them, and what was the sentence and all that. So it was for me a way of a closure. I don't need necessarily to go and meet them. I don't feel the need, but also I feel like whenever we talk about it, as long as justice served to them, I can move forward. But for example, if we had a government, or if we had community that was not giving or giving justice to the victim, or making sure that the perpetrators are given sentence and have go through trial, it would have been a different story. So for me, forgiveness is really, it's not forgetting, but it's really making sure, like, I feel like I'm happy with the justice that have been provided to them. And I personally feel like I need to move forward. And for me to move forward is through the healing journey, and to say, okay, I don't necessarily agree with these people, but in the end, justice have been served to them. And I owe it to my family to move forward and not be taken by what they have, what they did, and continue to be angry all the time. I don't feel like it's helping me or anyone in the community.
Thank you. Okay, Mai, would you like to go in another direction with another quote or question or comment?
I just wanted to make a quick comment to touch on, I think Nigel said something about reconciling caring for oneself and caring for others. And I think, Celine, in one of the chapters of your book, you talked about whether Rwanda as a country has healed from the genocide. Even though there's an annual commemoration of the genocide and people maybe cry. So I was wondering, following the publication of your book, whether, as a country, whether the awareness of mental health awareness or dealing with trauma, how that has progressed, to today. You know, quite curious because it's something I'm quite interested in.
Yeah, like we said before, to one comment, I think it was Desiree's comment, a question from 1994, where the country had focused on physical wounds and also for people who were seriously affected mentally. It has graduated now to expand and not only focus on genocide survival or genocide, anything genocide related, but mainly on mental wellness. And what has been done is building more facilities that will help people who need mental care, if I could say, and to add more faculty, if I could say, at university for resources to be taught and to be equipped to be able to help the community. And so we have new centers that are helping, that are focusing on depression, for example, on substance abuse, on different area in that area. But we also have the youth that has started with initiatives, talks and awareness on TV, on radios that talk about mental wellness and what it means. And like I said, there are words even in Kinyarwanda describe depression in itself has been challenging. Now people have started to talk about the word in itself that is challenging to define depression. So those are I would say that it's progressing because we have also the government that have put resources with regards to forming resources really to help people and to help elevate this mental health challenges in Rwanda. So we still have a long way, like many countries, I will assume, but I am happy to see that the young people are embracing mental health as, you know, a normal or a very important aspect of their lives. And if you see the talks that are happening in town with regards to mental wellness at work, mental illness with the youth, so it's hopeful. It's really something to look forward to with regards to where the youth are taking these new initiatives going forward.
That's good, thank you. Okay, somebody else?
Could I just ask, Celine, what's the nature of your business now?
So we are doing human resource consulting. So most of the things we do recruitment. We have a recruitment agency, and we also do human resource management. So HR related issues with regards to staffing and also strategic work with regards to HR policies and strategic HR work for companies. Yeah.
And this may not be a politically correct thing to say or to ask, but do you think your husband is a saint?
He's a saint?
Yes.
I think he's very special. A saint, maybe not, but someone very special to have endured all that and stayed with me. That's all. Everything. Yeah, I always tell him, oh my God, you have to write a book also with regards to how you dealt with it.
Is he there? Is he there?
No, he's out actually.
Oh, shame.
I would be very interested in his book.
Yes, yeah. I will tell him, Kenneth. Thank you.
What I found very interesting, Celine, was that in the other book we read by Edith Eger, her husband was very much had a similar, I think, supportive role for her when she went through coming to terms with the past. It struck me all sorts of parallels between Gilbert and Baylor.
Yes, yeah, because one of the things that he was among the few people who noticed that something was actually wrong, and he also mentioned that, oh, I don't think that's the problem you're having. I think you need to grieve your mom, and it was out of nowhere. And you know, I was like, what? Like, how does that have to do with what's happening? You know, And he was very like straightforward. He said, no, that's you need to grieve and let her go. And so it's, yeah, it was very courageous of him.
Celine, what's your hope for the future?
What is my hope for the future?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. That's my hope for the future. Sometimes I'm like very skeptical to say it because I'm a Christian. I'm like, my hope for the future is for all violences to end and for us to be in heaven, because I know for the world to become heaven where we all love each other and where there's no war anymore. Because whenever I see the news, whenever I hear violence is happening around the world, I always see that little child. I always see that voice that of vulnerable people, and it just eats my heart that things are still happening around the world, and that person is seated there and is going to be affected. And my hope is really for violence and war to stop and to live in a peaceful world as much as we can. But most of the time, there's another voice that says, will that ever happen? Only heaven. So I wish that the world will be heaven. That's my hope for the future.
I just want to ask what is the situation in Rwanda now between Hutu and Tutsis? As you have come so long, and reading this book, there's like, you're really courageous to write and put all your feelings and how you dealt with it. So just wondering, what is the situation in Rwanda between these two communities?
Yeah, thank you for the question. It's actually very interesting because we were discussing about that last night. It's if you were in Rwanda, you will not be able to differentiate who is Tutsi, who is Hutu. Even myself, who is a Rwandan, I'm not able to differentiate and say this is this person and this is this person. And it was only something that was brought by the international community when we were being colonized, where they introduced the IDs, and it was just two communities that says, okay, you are Hutu or Tutsi, but it was not an identity in itself. It was just ethnic, and it was just like you came from this side, you came from this side, but we were all Rwandans back in the days. So I'm really, really happy to see that when I go to work, or when people are being promoted, or when people are giving jobs, or when the youth are applying for any type of opportunities around the world, the word Tutsi and Hutu is not coming in between anything that they can achieve. So that for me is a huge success. And it's also looking back, yes, but going forward, I see the hope that Rwanda will continue to be Rwandans as long as we don't fool ourselves with anything discriminating us again, because we are all Rwandans, and it's not like a word that we say, oh, we are all Rwandans. If you really look at the Hutu and the Tutsi, you would never know who is who, and which. It's not like there's something particular. Only those little details I said, oh, this one. You may even be surprised that I look like maybe a Tutsi, but I'm actually a Hutu. So it's just like interesting and very, very hopeful to see that there's none of that is being applicable to achieving whatever you can get as a person.
I must add, because I do follow everything that goes on in Rwanda. I am absolutely inspired by the government's push to promote culture, but to also promote Ndi Umunyarwanda. I'm Rwandan. So it's really re-educating an entire nation to see themselves more as Rwandans, as opposed to what the governments did in the past, promoting, Hutu identity, Tutsi identity. So the concept of Ndi Umunyarwanda is to really encourage people to feel more proud to be Rwandan.
Yeah. Thank you, Elizabeth.
So I think it is time for thank yous. Kenneth, are you still there or are you gone? Gone. Okay. I was just going to ask everybody to say a little thank you to Celine, and Celine can do the same for us. So thank you, Celine. It has made such a difference to have you on our call and to actually meet the person whose book we've read. And we just pray that God will continue to unfold his plan for you and that your healing journey will one day be complete. But thanks to that journey, you are able to help many others on that journey in, as you say, not just your family, your friends, your country, but all generations and further afield as well. So thank you so much. Nigel.
Yes, I think it's been absolutely fascinating and inspiring to hear the discussion tonight. I'm really glad that I read the book, and I'm really glad that you were able to join us.
Thank you, Nigel.
Yes, I wanted to say thank you. Thank you very much. It actually allowed me to understand quite a lot of things of how these things can happen. The division, creating identities that come into conflicts, and how these things don't happen from one day to the other, but they happen over a long period of time. And so really, if I want to help and to actually change that and create a better world, then I have to stop any separation. I have to not to be complacent in that. Same thing, that's what's happening in the Ukraine. The Russians say, well, you're Russian, and these Ukrainians say, no, we are Ukrainians. But to really respect everybody for who they are. And at the end, what you also said is that we all have two eyes, two ears, and a mouth. We are all the same. We're not aliens. We're not different. We're all the same. We have all the same right to be here, and we should all respect each other. So I don't know. I hope that people can get to that point, really, and to get them to really start doing that. I mean, it's yeah. Thank you so much for being here. It made it so valuable, and I've learned so much. Thank you so much.
Siri.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Celine. Thank you for telling your story. And I know that by telling your story through the book, you're telling the stories of so many other people in Rwanda. And, the idea of tribalism is something that, we have in Nigeria as well, especially the Igbo people. We had the Biafra War. We have issues, have the issues in Nigeria right now. And, I always talk with Joseph all the time with regards to promoting peace in Africa, whatever we can do. That's why I started my podcast in addition to my day job. And we are one race, human race. Every other thing is a construct, whether it's white or black or, even so, every other thing is a construct. It's just idea of promoting peace or finding ways to, tell our people that we're all the same. And all this tribalism stuff has to stop. And I'm happy for the work you're doing. And whichever way we can, help or contribute, as I talk a lot. Me and Joseph actually live in the same building, so that will be very good. So thank you very much for the work you do, and I will connect with you on LinkedIn, and hopefully I can see the work you do and find a way to help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Suzanne, you want to say something?
Yes, first of all, congratulations for the book, and thank you for the courageous words that you have put it into this book, and all those words that you have written here, like as Sochima said, it resonates so many other people. And I hope that your book will inspire others to come out and express how they are going through. And as you have come up, this far, hopefully they can also come out from that trauma, and also a message for whole world that these such things should not happen any part of the world. So thank you for this book. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
And lastly, Desiree, and then Celine can have the last word.
My sister, Celine, I want to say in Kirundi, Mana ikuzigame, may God always protect you. And I hope that my child is 7. Her name is Zuba. Her mom is Rwandan. I hope that my child and your children will live in a better world, that they will not have to hear what you and I have endured in our respective countries. I hope that in that time they can grow to be, just living in a world where there's no war, there's no hatred, that they are just seen as human beings. So I pray that you will continue to open doors for others as well to heal, but to also know that after healing, they're able to rebuild themselves like you have done. Congratulations on what you have achieved, and I hope we'll meet someday.
Thank you, Desiree.
And you may have the parting words, Celine. It's been so lovely to meet you.
Thank you so much for making the time, and thanks, Carl, also for recommending the book. And for everyone who has read, it's always a pleasure, and I'm always humbled to see someone taking the time to read. It actually encourages me, and reminds me of why I put myself out there. I always say that after writing, and when I meet people who have read the book, it's like someone who looks at you in the eyes, or naked somewhere somehow, because everything has been put it out there, and it has not been an easy journey, but you reading it make it so worth it. So thank you, and keep recommending to other people, and as much as you can. And I also commit myself to attend to such events, because I know that it's my responsibility to also really give voices, like I said in the introduction, give the voice to the people we lost in the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, but also to what we are continuing to see in the world, and being able to speak to that Ukrainian girl, 10-year-old, who is there, who is seeing things that she doesn't understand, who is losing people and losing his own word. What is it that she's feeling, and maybe with the hope and the aim that it will reach someone and prevent people from taking harsh decisions that contribute to other people's violence. So thank you for making it worth it, and thank you for also all the wishes and the prayers. May God continue to bless you in your respective work as well.
And your husband the same, and the 2 little boys. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much, everybody. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Celine.
Bye-bye.
Bye.